Hey folks, Peter here. Thank you for joining me on the channel once again. This video is probably going to be a bit shorter, nothing too crazy. I'm just going to teach you how to change the band and case on a G-Shock. Let's get into it. So this is actually a pretty simple operation here. Here's the G-Shock that we are going to be working on today. This is a DW-6600. And this one in particular, kind of worn through. It's all shaped up to somebody's wrist. I got this secondhand, obviously. This thing is disgusting. So we're going to be changing this all out. Nice bright light though, which I think is pretty cool, as you can see there. Nice big screen. Nothing too complicated on it. Yeah, so we're going to get this band off. I'm going to show you how to do that, how to get this case off. Then I'm going to clean it, and then we're going to get some new parts installed. Usually I'm at my workbench. This is just the table in the other room here. And it's a G-Shock, so I'm not too worried about scratches or anything like that on the watch itself. First thing we're going to do here is take this band off. There's a spring bar holding in each side. Take a nice little fork tool here. It's as simple as that. And if you've never seen a spring bar, it's a tube here, and then the ends have these notches so they can fit into holes, and then sort of like a collar on them. And then there's a spring inside, so you can squeeze that, fit it in place, and then it shoots out to lock into place. So I'm just going to go ahead and repeat that on the other side here. Simple enough. I do have to reuse these spring bars. I don't have any on hand. Bit of an oversight, but that's okay. So that's the first part there, getting that off. If you just needed to change your band, pretty much as simple as that. You just reverse the process, put the pin in the band, and then you squeeze it and fit it into these little holes in the sides of the case here. Put one side in, squeeze the other. And it's really hard to show this off while doing it, but I don't know if you heard that snap or not, but that spring bar is now installed. And like I was saying, the ends push back out into the lugs to secure the watch. So that's the first step. There's not really many tools that I'm using here. There's the fork tool there and a Phillips screwdriver. I do also have my tweezers here if I need those for actual work on the watch, but I don't think I will. To get this case off in particular, every G-Shock is a little different. But this one, there's just 4 screws right on the sides here. There and there. And I'm just going to unscrew all 4 of those. And we're pretty much halfway done with this. Now, I've not taken this case off of this watch before, so I have no idea what it looks like under here, but given the band condition, and also this case, it's a resin. It's like a rubber, plastic, whatever resin fully is. But this one, it almost feels sticky. So I don't know if the person that owned this before me, if they had this thing sitting in chemicals or if it was around chemicals a lot and just breaking down that material. But I've got all those screws out, and hopefully this should just peel off of here. We have to basically get the sides of the case over these buttons, and then it just comes right off. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. I have a flathead screwdriver here just to help. In case I usually just use my fingernails, but if you don't have fingernails, a flathead screwdriver. And basically you just need to get this over the buttons. And I think, given the age of this watch and the condition of this bezel, yeah, this is just going to rip apart. I didn't think this was going to come off in one piece. Usually there's a good amount of flexibility, but this, I mean, is literally just crumbling apart. People that own G-Shocks refer to this as resin rot, and this is definitely on display here. Normally you're supposed to be able to just peel this off without having to crumble it apart and rip it apart, but that's not the case here. Before I even take this out of the bag here, you can see that this is squishing. This has some flexibility to it, whereas this is literally just ripping apart. This is no good. Get rid of that. So this is what a G-Shock, in this case a DW-6600, looks like without the case on. There's the back there, and then the buttons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab a brush, maybe a little bit of soapy water, and then just try to clean this up before I put the new bezel and band on. If you want to see how to do that, I do have a video. I'll put it down in the description if you want to see that one. It's pretty straightforward though. G-Shocks are meant to be used and abused. So something like this, I should just be able to get wet if all the seals are good. I'm going to trust it, and if not, we'll have issues for another video, I guess. But I'm just going to go ahead and brush all of this dirt and grime and whatever off of all this and breathe some new life into this. I'll be back when I get that all done and show you the result. Alright, so I'm back here after a quick cleaning. Really nothing to it. Like I said, just a brush and a little bit of soapy water. I got most of it off with just the brush without even having to get it wet. So I didn't have to worry about breaching the seals or anything with that. But I did use a little bit of water, soapy water on the brush just to really get some of that deeper stuff off of there. But I mean, this thing is pretty much spotless. And this thing's ready to go. Now that we have it all cleaned up, I've got the bezel here. We're going to start with that. And it's really quite a simple process, but I'm going to walk you through it. Just make sure everything makes sense for you. So here's the bezel. Again, this thing has got some flexibility to it. This isn't going to be ripping apart anytime soon, hopefully. There's the back side, the front side. Just make sure you line it up. It's pretty straightforward. Buttonhole there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, these two buttons on this side are full size. This button is full size, and then this button is recessed. That's the adjust button. It's the sensitive button. This kind of watch, you just push the button to get into adjust mode. You don't have to hold anything. So it is recessed so you don't accidentally bump it or try to reduce the risk of bumping it. So all I'm going to do here is just line up the two holes on the side there with the full-size buttons. And those just kind of snap into place there. So that's all set there. So now what I have to do is lift up and over the buttons here. And this gets kind of tricky. But there we go. With that little bit of flexibility, I was able to get that lifted up over the edge and then just push it and snaps and falls right into place. And that's all set. Look at that. Compared to what it was before, that looks a lot better. So now all I have to do to finish the installation of the bezel is just put those 4 screws back in on the side. And you don't need to crank these down super tight or anything. But you don't want them loose. But this is a plastic case that you are screwing these into. So don't go too tight. Just give them a little bit. You don't want to be sitting here and cranking those down. Easy enough. All 4 screws are in place. So now I have to get those spring bars back out so we can put the new band back on. But first, let me actually use this as an opportunity to show you how to remove a spring bar without the band being in the way. So how this works is there's the notched end on the fork tool here, and on this spring bar it's a double flange, so there's room to put your spring bar tool. And now if this goes shooting off, that'll be a good lesson too, especially since I'm doing this in a very awkward position. But all I'm going to do is push over to the side here and then just try to move it out of the way of the lug. Well, that one fell in. I was hoping it would pop up and out, but we'll work around that. So there, the spring is now released from tension, and that'll just come right out. And I'll show you here again. Push in, and I want it to go down. There's no band to hold it up or out. And then just make sure you get rid of that spring tension before you let go of the end. Otherwise, it will shoot off on you. I've done it many times. Luckily, I have spares sitting around if I need them. But if you are at home doing this and you don't have a supply of spring bars, you're not going to want to lose those. So we got the band here, genuine Casio replacement, and there are a few different models that this band works for. They all have the same casing basically. So that is something to consider. If you can't find your specific watch, if you can find one similar, maybe you can use parts from it. And I didn't find this through any special store. I just went online and just typed in DW-6600 and I found the band I needed. Now this does have the plastic buckle on it, and if I ever wanted to change that off, a couple pairs of pliers and literally just open up this plastic. There's no spring bar in here, and you can work that off and then replace it with a metal buckle if I wanted to. So put your spring bar in the band there, and then just make sure you're putting this on the right side. Putting bands on upside down is never fun. I always like to set the spring bar out a little bit, find its hole, fit the band in, and now just this side of the spring bar here, if we can get that zoomed in. I don't know if you can see that little bit of spring bar there. I'm just going to push in and down, and that's installed. I'll leave the camera zoomed in this time so you can see everything in a little bit more detail there. So I leave the spring bar out, push it into the hole there. The band is seated now, and then I can just go ahead and grab that little bit of spring bar on the side there, squeeze it in and push it down. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but those spring bars are now in and then pushed out into the holes in the lugs. And when you are installing spring bars, you want to try to not push down and scrape, especially on these G-Shocks with the plastic cases, because you can scrape this plastic. And same once they're installed, you don't want to be ripping them around because it is plastic, and if you open up those holes, your band can slip. That band is installed now, unless I gave this thing a really good tug. Again, it is just plastic. If your watch does snag on something, it is going to rip off your arm. So that is that all set. New band, new bezel on there. Cleaned up underneath the bezel. That thing's ready to rock, and it lights up nice and bright. I'm actually going to do another project with this watch. I don't think I'm going to film it or anything. But you can actually take this screen out, print out something on a transparency sheet and stick it behind the screen. So when it lights up, you have a logo that shows through. I do think it's pretty cool, but I don't think it's really anything I'm going to show off on video. Unless somebody really wants me to do it, then I will. So that is going to do it for the video here. There is one thing left to do, and that is obviously to try the watch on now. Obviously, brand new watch, does have some break-in time, but right off the bat, I mean, that just feels good. So that's always a nice sign. Nice, legible screen, bright light, pretty solid watch. That's going to do it for the video. So thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate you guys all being here. If you have any questions, let me know. If it's something with the G-Shock, if I can do it, maybe I'll consider doing a video on it. We'll see. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. That's all I got. Thank you so much again. I'll see you guys next time.